All right, everyone, we've got good news today. Link in the description. Archived, of course. It turns out that because of Donald Trump's efforts with regards to the National Guard, ICE, and so forth in D.C., a lot of illegals are self-deporting from Washington, D.C. to go to, other pastures. Maybe they're greener, maybe they're not. A lot of them apparently illegally driving for companies to do delivery service. Now, I don't have a big problem with Mamacita with three U.S.-born children remaining in the country at this time, assuming there's no other law breaking or anything like that. And I know I deviate from some of you in my opinions with regards to immigrants. If you are at least trying, if you're not doing anything else, you're not selling fentanyl or anything like that, you're not a member of a cartel, you'd be last on the list for deportation under a Tarl administration. Let's put it that way. Under a Warwick administration. You need to focus on the cartel members and stuff. Liberals, though, want you to believe that the dude on the corner that's selling fentanyl and 12-year-olds is the same as Mamacita. They're not the same. And largely the latter group is not interested in being comported with the former, by the way. I say this from experience, having talked to many people, including people who are actually illegally in the United States. Link in the description, archived, of course. It's very, very funny. Trump's efforts are working. It turns out that when you say, hey, you're not going to get a free ride any longer, you're illegally in the country, maybe you're committing other crimes, buy, at the very least, buy from our capital. I do not find this to be problematic in any manner. Actually, this is literally what was, something they wanted to do. They wanted to clean up DC. I think part of it is for the celebrations that are to come next year with regards to the anniversary of our nation's existence. When your first act coming into the nation is illegally crossing into the nation or overstaying a visa and being illegally in the nation, you're not showing respect for the United States of America. Again, there is a priority list. Somebody who is not doing anything else wrong, that's at the lowest possible priority. Somebody who is selling drugs, I don't support the drug war, but whatever. Somebody who is undercutting U.S. drug producers, we'll put it that way. Maybe people will understand my mentality or doing hits for, some cartel or something like that, they shouldn't be in the country. No other country in the world tolerates this. Even the European countries that are more open borders, even they're having an open conversation about this. And nobody really gets called xenophobic for it unless it's by someone on the far left. But in this country, we've got people who, they're not far left. They're just lay liberals. They're still complaining about it. It's basically to keep up appearances more than anything else. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, we love brown people. Oh shit, they're moving in next door? Well, now it's become a problem. We need to do something about it. I find these people to be hysterically ignorant, and I find them to be completely objectionable. If you vote in favor of those policies, so be it. Well, then invite them into your neighborhoods because, you clearly want them there. Don't blame some suspender snapper over there who doesn't want them people in our neighborhoods. Hey, they voted their conscience the same as you did. It's just that they're not a NIMBYist. And they'll probably complain less, by the way, if Mexicans move into their neighborhood. There's a Hispanic family, for example, now here in Chisana Drive. Nice people, yeah, totally respectable. They're not doing anything wrong. I do not have any problem with them. The fact that they happen to not be Anglo-Saxon does not matter to me. This is a huge win for Trump, though. Keep in mind, his entire goal was to put pressure on the illegally immigrated population in and around the DC area and say, look, at least at the Capitol, for once in a generation, can we please just have people who are lawfully in the country in our own capital? Is that really too much to ask? What would happen, for example, if I were to go to Mexico right now on a tourist visa and I were to overstay the visa? And I said, no, this is basically my country now. I'm not going to learn your language. I'm not going to obey your customs. I don't give a fuck about any of them. I'm entitled. I'm an American, God damn it. You're supposed to bow down to me. People think you're an egotist. You're a blind narcissist. You're an asshole, basically. And eventually you would get rounded up, you'd be in jail. I don't think you want to be in a Mexican jail. It's probably just about as bad as New Orleans. And then eventually you get deported. There have been cases where people have gone across the border and they have something that's illegal in Mexico and they like get run through the ringer and stuff like that. Their immigration policy and their border policy is much more strenuous than the one that we even have under Donald Trump. I like it when liberals complain about this and say, well, it's so tyrannical. Yeah, he's doing exactly what every prior president in the last 30 years has said they wanted to do, but never actually did. Well, you voted for those people too, including the Democrats, so you shouldn't really have anything to complain about. The fact is that having people self-deport, either from a locality or from the country in general, is exactly what we voted for. This was one of the big priorities of the last election. You have a Swiss cheese border that's not being guarded. When people come over, they're processed, they're released. A third of the children that came into the came into the country unaccompanied aren't even accounted for. There was a big bust. The legacy media barely covered this. There was a big bust only last month of human traffickers. They liberated thousands of children from a human trafficking ring. Trump never got any credit for this whatsoever. This never happened under Joe Biden, probably because he was sniffing all of their hair, but we'll get past that for a moment. There's a huge win. This is what we voted for. And then they're talking in the article about how, well, some illegals have switched from mopeds to bicycles in order to fly under the radar. You know, if they get stopped for a traffic violation in the normal lane, then they can be queried as to their immigration status. I fail to see the problem. This is our law. If you have a problem with this, by the way, liberals, please go back to prior incarnations of Congress who passed the laws in the first place. The only difference now is that the Trump administration is actually following the laws that were already incepted by prior administrations. There's nothing controversial about this. Unless you're, an Antifa member or something, you shouldn't have a problem with it because this is our law. If you're going to come into the country, you're going to have to obey the laws of the country. Many of those laws I don't agree with and think shouldn't exist. Admittedly, I'm on the classically liberal side. I think we could get rid of, at least 50% of the bureaucracy and the laws that we've got on the books, and we'd still be a perfectly reasonable, well-governed, and much more free nation. And I have pity, sympathy for people who go to a foreign country out of what they perceive of in many cases as necessity, and they don't necessarily get the warmest welcome. I can understand this, or you don't have the money to file the paperwork, hire the lawyer to immigrate legally. These things are not lost on me. Both of my wives have been from other countries, for example. That being said, it is still a good thing that this is happening. Other countries are wising up to this too. The fact that the globalists simply want to inundate us with limitless numbers of people from other cultures, creating a worldwide salad bowl that will never work. It can't work. It just won't. This has been tried before. It typically ends in disaster. Just look at the post-colonial period and the attempt by colonial powers to carve up nations where multiple tribes overlapped. Yeah, that's gone over really well. It hasn't resulted in ethnic warfare or anything like that, or religious warfare, or, other types of warfare, guerrilla movements and so forth. It happens all the time. It's happened hundreds of times in the last century. This is a huge win when people are self-deporting from DC. This just shows that his policies are working. Now, the legacy media will cast it off as well. This is abusive and tyrannical and wrong. Oh my God, you're forcing people to leave their jobs in order to escape DC because it's become a hellhole. It was a hellhole. It always will be, by the way, because it's full of politicians. So there's nothing you can do about that, but at the very least, you can make sure that the corrupt individuals that are living in DC are at least U.S. citizens and lawful residents. That's about all. Peace out.